What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Purple and Gold Bar Show. I am your host, Mr. Purple and Gold Bars, at your service, aka Mr. Supreme Overlord, aka Mr. AI Man 3000. We're back at it today, guys. We have another one for you, talking about JJ McCarthy and his development. We are going to go through a segment here from the Rich Eisen Show where Kurt Warner breaks down his thoughts regarding JJ McCarthy. And so we're going to get right into it, guys. You know, it's a type of, this is exactly the type of real football talk that we want to have, not the armchair thoughts, quarterbacking or GMing or anything like that. We don't want the layman's takes and views like we've been seeing Twitter be flooded by, and a bunch of different even mainstream media takes have been going on. So that's why we're going to see what Kurt Warner said about JJ struggles, the Vikings struggles, and everything in between here. So before we get started, let's get the intro going, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so we're back at it. Let's get into it. Let's see what Kurt Warner has to say about the Minnesota Vikings and JJ's development here.
I did actually a breakdown. So it's on QB Confidential for people that want to go a little bit more in depth and kind of talking about some of the issues. I mentioned it when we had a little conversation on game day morning last week. And I think the first thing is that, sometimes you just come across what I call natural throwers, that it's just natural for them to pick up a football and sling it. Guys like Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. And then there's other guys that aren't necessarily natural throwers, that they've worked at it, they're good at it, but they're not natural throwers. And I believe that's where it starts with JJ McCarthy. I don't believe he's a natural thrower, athletic type thrower. And so the first thing that you're seeing is a lot of inaccuracies when he throws the football. Coming out of Michigan, everything was a fastball and it was either hit or miss. And that's something that he has to work on. He's got to get better at. So it starts there, I think, with the physical. And then what I talked about in the piece is the mental side of things. And it's a fascinating thing, because I don't know the background. I don't know the full details. But you've heard me talk a lot about pure progression type systems. And pure progression type systems, again, for those that aren't familiar, is a play where coach basically designs a play and says, it doesn't matter what coverage you get, doesn't matter what you see. You're going to read this the exact same way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how you're going to read it no matter what. And when that happens, because I'm a believer, there's sometimes when you come up and you can have a pure progression play, but I know without a doubt, 1 and 2 aren't going to be open against this coverage.
Those are two great points when it comes to JJ McCarthy. One, that he isn't a natural thrower of the football like you might think Tom Brady or maybe Aaron Rodgers. Most people would consider Aaron Rodgers that kind of gifted thrower, right? But the thing that really stands out there, what he said, is about the pure progression aspect of how our offense is set up. And when we look at it in hindsight, we can tell that that's why veteran quarterbacks have done so well. Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, for example, have done so well because they already have the nuance and the experience to be able to see that this coverage, the first two options, aren't going to work out. So instead of them actually assessing those routes, progression 1 and 2, for example, in this situation, they just kind of turn on a mental timer, because they know that the way that the play design is set up is that you have to, the routes 3, 4, and 5, for example, take a good amount of time for them to become open, or for them to actually be for the quarterback to actually switch to them and deliver the ball on time, right? So if you just go, for example, if you look at the play and you see that the coverage or the how the defense is set up, then you know that 1 and 2 aren't going to be open, so you have to basically immediately switch over. So you still have to at least mimic that you're going through that progression, so that by the time that you get to that look, you can actually get it to them, right? So that's why a veteran quarterback has excelled a lot quicker and has done really well in Kevin O'Connell's system. So there's a little bit of a disconnect when it comes to a rookie quarterback, right? So it's a great point that that Kurt has in this one.
I know it. It's just bad coverage for that concept. For me, I'm wiping those things out and I'm going right to 3, 4, and 5. But in some systems, they don't really allow you to do that. 3, 4, and 5 have a certain timing. So you do have to look at 1 and 2, or at least have to take that same amount of time before you can get to 3 and 4. And so I'm always talk about how I think pure progression can hurt quarterbacks more than it can help them. And so what I'm seeing a lot of times on tape is I believe JJ's hanging on routes way too long. So by the time he gets back to these other routes, he can't see it. He doesn't have a time to verify it, or he's late on those particular routes. And so my question becomes, is JJ slow at processing things? Is he, taking too long to see and determine whether he wants number 1 or number 2 before he gets to number 3?
And then just kind of goes back to what I just said, where a veteran quarterback understands that really quick. And so therefore they just create that mental timer, and then they count down 5, 6, whatever timer that they set. So then they know that that's when they have to switch to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th progression on that read, right? And yeah, that's what we're seeing from JJ, and it's just a disconnect between KOC adapting quickly and adjusting the game plan, because this was supposed to be an ongoing 16 game plan, but that got shortened down to 14 games or whatever, or 12 games or whatever it is that he's actually going to be able to play. So that's where we're seeing both the offense and JJ not being on the right page, and it's just part of the developmental process. It would take a pure savant or expert at both the quarterback position and the coach to be able to adjust that in real time and not skip a beat. And that's just something that we're never going to see in the NFL. And if we do, it's going to be a long ways away. So we'll check it out.
Or is the system dictating him to, you got to see 1, you got to see if 1 comes open, you got to hang here until it gets to the top of the route before you can move on to the next one? And is that causing him to go through things slowly? And so that, to me, is the big question I have with what's going on with Minnesota. Is it JJ? Is it the system? Is it a combination of both of them that's causing him to play slower than he needs to play? He has got to speed up the processing and get to places quicker. So, if he wants to take a little bit more time to throw the football and wants to be more accurate and wants to slow down his body or his arm, he has the ability to do that. But right now, that is the biggest issue that I'm seeing, is that the processing part of it, or at least getting to where he needs to be, is slow. Is it system related? Is it player related? That, to me, is a question that I'm going to continue to look forward to, as he continues to play throughout the season and in his career. But I think it's a valid point, because I see a number of systems built that way, where you can't really speed up your process because these other guys aren't quite ready in their route yet. And it causes a quarterback to play a little bit differently, play a little bit slower, and miss things that, personally, if I was building an offense, I'd say, hey, if you don't like this coverage, we're getting off of that. We're getting right back to this. I'm making it fast. I'm letting you play fast, get the ball out of your hands, and be able to play a little bit more successfully. So that, to me, in a nutshell, is what I'm looking at when I see the Vikings play.
Well, is that why he's taken a lot of sacks, or is it because the offensive?
Before we let Rich Eisen ask that question there, but I think that goes to show that why JJ succeeds more when we're in hurry up tempo, because those plays are different than when we go through the actual offense that KOC wants to create here in Minnesota. So that's why we see him succeed in those high tempo situations where, like, for example, at the end of the game against the Bears game, in the Bears game, where that final drive, because it was hurry up tempo, because they were more quick style play calling, that's why he succeeds. That's why in the Lions game, a lot of those the drives that he was successful in, especially at the beginning, were the scripted drives or the ones that were designed in that way to kind of give JJ the best opportunity. But he still also needs to develop into the quarterback that KOC wants to be able to run this offense. So it just goes to show that it's more nuanced than that. And I think Kurt Warner makes a great point there. And let's see what Rich has to say.
Line is just not as good as previous years, and they have been banged up. They just had all five of them together for the first time this time around. Unfortunately, it was against Micah and Green Bay. What about that part of this equation?
Well, I mean, I would say it's still a combination. I mean, there's times where the offensive line struggled, especially this past week. But yeah, I mean, the longer you take to process information, like if you can get back there and read it and get the ball out on time, that's always going to help your offensive line. So yes, I do believe when he's hanging on something too long on one side, and then we're asking him to come all the way back to the other side of the field and try to verify what's going on coverage-wise back there before you can throw it, that all takes longer. And taking longer, obviously, is going to put more pressure on the guys up front. So I don't think it's one or the other. I think there's different times where you can point to the offensive line, and other times you can point to holding the football too long as well. And so, again, to me, this game is played so fast that you have to speed it up any way possible. And that's where pure progression, or that's where some young quarterbacks struggle. We saw Caleb Williams last year, talked about it so much that he held the ball too long. And he was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL last year because he didn't get through his process fast enough. That, to me, is where JJ is right now for one reason or another, and it has to get better.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks.
There you have it, guys. And I think Kurt Warner made a great job of summarizing the Quarterback Confidential episode that he did on JJ McCarthy, where he goes really in depth of everything. And I definitely, if you have the hour to watch that and to really deep dive into the weeds to really understand what's going on in Minnesota, I think it's going to be eye-opening, because I think what it really shows is that it's not just JJ. It's not that the kid is a bust or anything like that. It's not that KOC and the play calling is bad. It's not that the O-line is not holding up. It's a combination of everything, which means that everybody's on a different page. And when everybody's on a different page, we see such crazy dysfunction on the field, and that's why some of these games look as ugly as they are. And then we have games like the Lions game where not everything was on the same page, but close enough to where we get to see some of the potential future that we have here. Now, if we broke down the Lions game and how that went down, where there was a lot of good, there was a lot of bad, and at the very end it ended up being a great as well. It should have been what the Viking season was supposed to be entirely, had we not had any injuries, had we been able to go through these phases of development starting in September, not starting in November, where it's put a big disruption to the timeline and the game plan that was created in the offseason, right? And what I think the conclusion that what Kurt Warner is getting to, that what most Vikings fans can't get out of their jadedness, can't get out of their low IQ, or their just inability to understand, because everybody thinks that they're an armchair quarterback and think, oh, the Eagles are going to go undefeated this season and end up, with the record that they are this season, right? So it's just how the human brain works. When you don't know what you don't know, you come up with stupid takes like that. And that's why the real conclusion that people I don't think are actually going to get from it is that it's not JJ, it's not the Vikings, it's that the everything is just not aligned. They're not on the same page, and all sides need to come together in order for the structure to evolve into a place where things start looking more like the development is actually working, and that's what we're not seeing here. It's essentially what I've been preaching this entire time. There's a lot of blame to go around for everyone. KOC, JJ, the offensive line, our offensive weapons, and that they need to get on the same page, i.e. we need to give these guys time to let them figure it out. If this was happening, like I was saying, like it was supposed to happen in September, not November, they would have been refining the process this entire time. So by now, we would look a lot more competent and a lot more further down the line of development that we have. It seems like every week we see some good things, and it's like, oh, maybe this is the week where we're going to take that next step and we're going to look more and more polished. But instead, we keep seeing them. It's almost like it feels like they revert back to the first step, which actually is a symptom or leads to the fact that everybody's not on the same page. So as we keep going through the season, as everything happens, then we can kind of develop and further get on the same page. We might not even get to a point this season where every aspect of, whether that's play calling, coaching, JJ, offensive line, everything falls on the same page to where we look like we expected this team to look like this season. It probably won't happen this season. It might actually not happen until the off season, where they can actually step back and have the time to analyze everything and start putting things together, so that coming into next year, we actually start closer to where we should have ended the season, and start there, and then start continuing the progression of what this offense and this team definitely has the potential to be. Injuries have definitely derailed the timeline and process that was planned for this offseason, and they have to figure it out on the fly now, which, outside of a savant or a genius, that task is almost too much to handle. But I think the Vikings have done an okay job this season based on what has happened. Because if nothing went wrong and everything went the way it was supposed to, then we would have seen a good developmental arc, a learning curve start to develop, where we start seeing, okay, this was rough, we're starting to put things together, and then we're kind of regressing or going back a step, and then 2 steps forward, 1 step back sort of situation, all the way until the middle of the season, where we're like, okay, now we're starting to see some consistency. And then later in the season, it was like, whoa, this is what we expected to see. But because of what has happened, that's not been the case. But I am a firm believer that everything that has happened happens for a reason, and those learning experiences are going to be something that we're going to need further down the road, when in year 2, year 3, when things go wrong, and we can draw upon this season, the experiences that we learned this season as well as last season, in order to overcome a lot quickly, a lot more efficiently than what would be expected if we had never experienced these things in the past. Right now, we have poor Max Brosmer getting thrown into the deep end, and he needs to get this valuable playing experience, because he desperately needs that, so that in upcoming years, when he needs to play, he is more prepared than if he had never gotten any playing time all season, because it just went perfectly, right? If everything went perfectly and Max didn't see any time on the field in the upcoming seasons, something's going to happen. JJ gets taken out for a half, a big hit, a concussion, something like that, and he's going to have to go in and play. And it might be a situation where we desperately need the win. And if he doesn't have the experience that he's going to get this weekend, it could all fall apart and it could not look good. So this is still a really good situation to have, where Max is going to have to learn and get this valuable experience so that he is prepared when he is called upon in big situations in the upcoming years. That's how he is going to develop into being a top tier quarterback or backup quarterback in this league. So I want the best for Max. I don't want him I hope he doesn't struggle as much as potentially he could, because he is an undrafted free agent rookie quarterback that is getting thrown into the spotlight here, and I also don't want him to suffer any injuries, and I hope that he's able to get valuable experience so that later down the road he is more than ready for when it actually counts, right? And after all that being said, let's not gloss over the fact that Kurt is not saying that JJ is hopeless or that he's a bust. He's saying that JJ flashes a future star in the making. And when him, the system, the team, the O-line all get on the same page, that's when we're going to see greatness start to emerge. Now, I want to move on to a different part of the video, where I want to move on and talk about different levels or different types of learning styles according to the textbook. So like when we look at skill development or psychology textbooks and whatnot, what are the different levels of learning types and potentially where JJ falls in? And as you can see, we have 9 different types on the screen. We have expert, proficient, competent, advanced, beginner, novice, beginner, struggling learner, non-adaptive, and non-learner, right? So right off the bat, I want to say that in my opinion, the top 5 are the types of learners that actually make it to the NFL after, and the top 4 being the ones who get drafted as starters, and the 5th being drafted as a backup. And mind you, all of these can end up as well and end up as what we call a bust, depending on the team that drafts them, as well as how they develop and the experience in the situations that they go through at the beginning of their career. So at the professional level. So any one of these guys, regardless, can elevate or fall based on how they progress, right? So based on Kurt Warner's full breakdown, everything that we've seen, for example, from the interview from Greg Holcomb on Vocal Vikes channel, and anything that's been reported, JJ's struggles are not because he's incapable. I think it's because he's somewhere in between stage 2 and 3 of the learning model. That's exactly where almost every good NFL quarterback started. If we rush this, if we demand expert level play from a competent stage learner, we will break the process before it develops. And that's not something that we want as a fan base. And we don't want to turn into a situation where, what if we weren't so hard? What if the Vikings didn't give up on development? What if to where we're back to square one and we have to fully purge everyone from the GM all the way down to the quarterback and have to go through a whole 5, 6, 7 year process, because that's usually what it takes for a full rebuild to take hold and get to the point where we potentially could be in the next year or 2 instead of 5 or 7, right? So let me see here, where I lost where I was. That's why I've been saying that we need to have patience and let them figure out without pressure from the fans or the organization, so that we can let them evolve and grow into what they need to become, right? So let me give you guys some context of what guys fall into each section. Now, number 1, there has never been a savant or expert quarterback to ever enter the league and have sustained success from year 1 to retirement, even the GOAT. So we are still waiting to see if that ever happens. Most likely those types of geniuses or savants usually end up that also have the athletic prowess to go alongside that genius level mind, usually end up in other fields. Their genius ends up pushing them into different areas, that to them probably feel more like their genius is more would be better served, right? We see neuroscientists, we see guys that are pushing in the cutting edge of robotics, medicine, all the advanced, STEM fields, right? So I doubt that we'll ever see a guy that has that level genius that also has that level of physical capability to end up in the NFL. But what we have seen is a lot of proficient learners, the second stage, right? We've seen that multiple times. The key quarterback that we know to have that to come out of this class is the GOAT, Tom Brady. Okay, also guys like Peyton Manning, Joe Montana, Patrick Mahomes are some examples that fall into this category of learning. Now we have competent learners that we have seen throughout the years, like for example Big Ben or Aaron Rodgers, guys that were above that advanced beginners that can clearly set themselves apart from these advanced beginners in the league. We can probably name other guys, but those are two that come to mind immediately when I think of competent learners, based on my experience teaching and just training employees in general. Advanced beginners are other guys that show a lot of struggle, and sometimes they or competent learners or advanced beginners are guys that show a lot of struggle and a lot of stuff at the beginning of their career, but end up turning into something great. So we're looking at guys like Steve Young, Troy Aikman, Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers. Guys like this are guys that struggle at a lot at certain times in their career, but eventually get to a point where they're more than competent, maybe advanced, more than average quarterback, maybe even borderline elite at times in their career. And then novice level guys, the fifth stage, are guys that basically get drafted as backup quarterbacks, or guys that fall into that situation after getting a chance to start somewhere, where we really identify the fact that they're not really starters, they're more of a backup that can come in and do it in short spurts. Guys like Josh McCown or Nick Foles, for example. So, I want to say fans act like there's some mythical Hall of Fame quarterback who entered the league perfect and stayed perfect. That guy has never existed. Marino struggled. Brady struggled. Mahomes struggled. Montana struggled. And JJ struggling doesn't disqualify him or even means that he's a bust. It actually qualifies him. It means that he's on the same human path that every great quarterback has walked before him. So we just have to have some patience, have to have some grace and some humility. I get there's a lot of jaded fans that are impatient and honestly too brain dead to kind of figure it out. So for those that kind of can figure it out, we got to, stick together and let our Vikings fans know that, hey, settle down, man. You're completely unrealistic. You don't have the ability to understand what's actually going on, and you're just going based on a couple sliver of things that make you think that you know more than you actually know, and what you don't know is actually what's getting the better of you to come up with these stupid takes that we see in the comment sections or even in this chat today, right? So let's show some grace, some patience to the kid, unlike Chris Carter did, because when things align on all fronts, I expect to see greatness emerge from our team, our young quarterback, and for things to come. So there you guys have it. I hope you guys enjoyed the live today, and let's have some hope. Don't forget, we are about to start December, so the December giveaway is going to happen. So everybody that leaves a comment and is subscribed to the channel in the month of December is going to be entered into a draw. We're going to do a live draw so you guys can see who wins. And once those, we'll do that in January, the first week of January, and we'll get some t-shirts out to everybody here that wins. So don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. We are on the road to 500 subscribers. So until the next live, I will see you guys then. Take care, guys.